Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ambassador Nikki Haley.
I love you too. Thank you. Shabbat Shalom. You know, before we get started, I do want to take a moment to honor the memory of Sheldon Adelson. As you know, Sheldon had a bigger-than-life personality, but that was only matched by his bigger-than-life heart for people. He had an amazing love for America and Israel, and I know his spirit and legacy will continue to live on because this group will never forget him. It's great to be here with the Republican Jewish Coalition. You know, I love that the RJC just gets it. All you have to do is look at the lineup this weekend to know that. And y'all know not every Jewish group is the best when it comes to politics. There's this group called J Street. What's up with them? I've seen that when the Palestinian President Abbas goes to the United Nations to give one of his standard Israel-bashing speeches, the head of J Street is there giving Abbas a great big hug. And supposedly, they're supposed to be a pro-Israel organization. I will never understand that. And then there's AIPAC. Now, AIPAC, you can clap for AIPAC. Now, AIPAC is different. I do love AIPAC. It is genuinely pro-Israel, and it does a lot of great things. I have spoken at AIPAC events many times, and they've always been unbelievably supportive to me. It's unthinkable that a Democratic member of Congress called AIPAC a hate group, and that Democratic presidential candidates refuse to speak at AIPAC. It's absolutely outrageous. But there's one thing I don't get about AIPAC. And I'm not saying anything to you that I have not said to their leadership. Why do they invite politicians to their conference who strongly support the Iran nuclear deal? Stop rewarding bad behavior. It only gets you more bad behavior. Now, bipartisanship is important. The U.S.-Israel relationship should be completely bipartisan. I want all Democrats to support Israel as much as Republicans do. But if you make bipartisanship the whole reason for existence, then you lose sight of the policies you're fighting for in the first place. If a politician supports the disastrous Iran deal, opposes moving the American embassy to Jerusalem, and is embraced by anti-Semites who support the BDS movement, then a pro-Israel group should have absolutely nothing to do with him or her. But that's why it's such a pleasure to be here with you. I love being with people who get it. And y'all know me. I'm not one to hold back from saying what I think. You know, they realize that at the United Nations. I spoke truth to power. It's what I do. It's what we should all do. Life is easier when you tell the truth. It was the honor of a lifetime to represent America at the UN and defend the country I love so very much, even if it was a forum where America is often disrespected. But part of that disrespect comes from the nature of the UN itself. The other part is what we've brought upon ourselves. Take Cuba, for example. Every year, the UN has a vote that denounces America for the conditions in Cuba. You heard that right. It's a total joke, but that's what the UN has done the past 28 years. Shockingly, in the last year of the Obama administration, when President Obama was making nice with the Castro dictatorship, the U.S. actually abstained on the UN vote denouncing America. It was totally shameful. The point is this: at the UN and in international relations generally, you can't expect the rest of the world to respect you if you don't respect yourself. This embarrassing abstention was unfortunately not just limited to Cuba. In President Obama's closing days, the UN Security Council took up Resolution 2334. You remember it. It was an anti-Israel wish list. It declared illegal all Israeli activity in all territory that changed hands in 1967, including the Jewish quarter of Jerusalem's Old City and the holiest Jewish site. In a breathtaking betrayal, the Obama administration abstained on Resolution 2334 and allowed it to pass. When I got to the UN, I found out what really happened. The resolution passed because the U.S. pushed it and told other countries we would not exercise our veto. It was a slap in the face to our brothers and sisters in Israel and a real blemish on the value of American friendship. In my first days as ambassador, I promised the Israeli ambassador, Danny Danon, that on my watch, as long as I was ambassador, that would never happen again, and I'm proud to say it didn't. Almost 1 year to the day after Resolution 2334 passed, the UN tried to condemn America's decision to move our embassy to Jerusalem. I had the distinct honor of casting the United States veto. We didn't have any friends join us in that fight, but I didn't care if I was standing alone. We righted a wrong, and we told the world that not only is it our sovereign right to put our embassy wherever we want, but it was also time to recognize the truth. Jerusalem is and will always be the capital of Israel. That was truly a great day at the UN. There were some other fun days at the UN as well. In the history of the UN, there have been over 600 resolutions condemning Israel. Not one had ever acknowledged, let alone condemned, Hamas. We changed that too. For the first time, we convinced a majority of nations to condemn Hamas for the terrorist group it is. That was another good day. The UN is not for the faint at heart. We had plenty of fights on our hands. UNESCO is one of those UN agencies that routinely discriminates against Israel. One day they decided to designate the Tomb of the Patriarchs, another one of Judaism's holiest sites, as a, get this, Palestinian heritage site in need of protection from Israel. I had heard enough. We withdrew from UNESCO, and we took the checkbook with us and stopped paying for it. That was another good day. Then there was the UN commander in South Lebanon. My friend, General Kohavi, who is now the head of the IDF, introduced me to the commander when I visited the Israel-Lebanon border. That guy was a real piece of work. The UN has a peacekeeping force in South Lebanon, and its mission is to make sure the area is demilitarized and no entity other than the Lebanese army has weapons. Well, it was no secret. Hezbollah has thousands of soldiers and tens of thousands of rockets in South Lebanon aimed squarely at Israel. But the UN commander thought he should be friends with Hezbollah and not report any of their violations. I told him his job was not to make friends with terrorists. We called him out, and then we got him fired. That was another fun day at the UN. But there were some bad days at the UN too. It can be a very frustrating place. One of the most frustrating things was dealing with the UN Human Rights Council. In a recent 10-year period, the Human Rights Council has condemned China 0 times, condemned Iran 6 times, it condemned North Korea 9 times, and it condemned Israel 68 times. The Council even has a specific agenda item 7, that singles out Israel. No other country in the world has its own agenda item. Not Iran, not Syria, not North Korea. The Human Rights Council is a farce for many reasons. It's where some of the world's worst human rights violators go to protect themselves from criticism. China, Russia, Pakistan, Venezuela, Cuba, all are members in good standing today in the UN Human Rights Council. The hypocrisy was so blatant, so we called them out too. We could have just gotten out day one, but I didn't think that gave the situation justice. I wanted to prove a point. I wanted to reach out to other pro-human rights countries and see if we could actually fix it. I went to the Council's headquarters in Geneva. I made a simple proposal. I said we needed to do 2 things. One, we needed to vet the human rights records of countries to keep the